Welcome to the Influencer Show with your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Influencer Show where I interview people who can help influence the way you live life in a number of different ways. I'm your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi, aka T7, and today we have a very, very special and inspirational guest with us, Bob Doyle, who was featured in not only the movie The Secret, but also the brand new movie How Thoughts Become Things. So, Bob, why don't you tell the listeners who you are and why you do what you do?
Well, hi, I'm Bob Doyle. I did not actually set out in my career to be in personal development or make a difference or any of it. I really started out to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be on the radio and I just wanted to be funny and I wanted to use my voice and right? And I did that for a while, and then I got frustrated with it because I couldn't express all the creativity I wanted to working for somebody else and their rules and all that. So I was kind of disillusioned, and I went around trying to find answers, which eventually led me to this whole law of attraction conversation. It was a long and winding road because I was not really a woo-woo person or a metaphysical person per se. I liked New Age music and I liked incense, but I didn't know that much about it. But when I was dealing with my own frustration professionally and personally, I was just like looking for answers anywhere. And that's when I started learning about visualization and meditation and so on. And again, a long and winding road led me to some aha moments about this whole law of attraction concept and that we're all energy. And the big thing for me was that I was able to see how, even though I was speaking words of how much I wanted abundance and, a career I loved, inside I had a lot of limiting beliefs going around money and career and all of that. And when I got an understanding of, on an energetic level, how that was impacting my experience of reality, that was a huge aha moment for me. And that really began the journey. But what I'm about and why I do what I do, it's less about teaching the law of attraction or any of these principles than it is helping people to get in touch with who they want to be and expressing it. The two are really tied together, because if you want consistent and joyful results with any of these manifestation, quote unquote, techniques, you're going to want to love your life. You're going to want to learn, decide who you want to be and be that, and decide what you want out of your life based on that instead of where you are right now. So I'm really a messenger about creative self-expression, but learning about the law of attraction and all those other things it just made sense in that journey.
That is absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. I truly did I really did pick up on a lot of those points about visualization and the law of attraction. And I find that it plays a huge role in everyday life, regardless of whether you believe in it or not. It's going to affect you in some way, shape or form. So maybe could you share some tips on maybe some daily routines or exercises which the listeners could do to start the day positively?
Yeah. So the number one skill set to acquire, and if you don't, then you won't do any of the other things, is to learn to get into observation mode when you feel yourself feeling disempowered. And disempowerment can feel lots of different ways, like I'm not making enough money, or, oh, this person said something and now I feel bad, or I'm whatever negative thought that takes you down a notch. Learning, and what the movie is about, a lot, How Thoughts Become Things, and a huge amount of my work now is learning what role our brain and our wiring plays in that moment. We are on autopilot for the most part, right? We are not making decisions about how we feel. We just feel them. But we have the choice, actually. We do have the choice to feel a different way. We just have to change the predominant thought going on. But because we're on autopilot, if we've learned to respond negatively to a set of situations, that's what we're going to do. But learning to get into observation mode and go, okay, I have a choice right now. Literally, you can turn off all the emotion and just go, how would I rather respond to this? Do I really want to get mad right now? Do I want to make them wrong? Do I have to be right? None of that feels good. What would feel good? Walking away, saying this, saying that, but it's probably it's different than who you've been being. You're not wired to be that, but now that's the process that you're starting. So it's that the number one tip is to allow yourself to get into observation mode. And hey, look, if you want to be pissed off at somebody, you can go right back to it after. right? But but allow yourself to take the time, because you can go back if you want to. But why would you? If you can turn it off and choose a better thought, why would you want to go back? Oh yeah, because this. That's all just wiring, and so it can be changed. So really, the number one message is you can do this, but there are some things you need to do first, like deciding who you're going to be.
And that's so very true. It's about, first of all, like, because many of us, we want the results, but we're not willing to put in the consistent steps in the right direction to then get those attainable things. And I think that's one thing that, as a whole, like, just the world needs to awaken up to, that if you want something, you often have to put something in. And if you don't have to put something in physically, then it has to be either like mentally, spiritually, or some other shape, way, or form. So it's about being able to give something in order to get something, really.
Yeah, but look, at the bottom line is we're moving energy around. I mean, we're all just energy, clusters of energy, we're atoms and all that. So we're moving things around with our mind and our thoughts and the whole thing. And so, yeah, we're in some way, if we're going to receive something, we're doing something to attract that to us. It could be we're providing great value to someone who's giving us that thing in exchange. Or it could be things we'll never see. We'll never know. The energetic ripple impact of us just doing and being who we need to be. We'll never know the impact of that and how it will come back around. And it's not, we don't need to. Our brains want to. Our brains want to know that, oh, they're telling us this stuff in the movie. I want to know every single step of how it works. You wouldn't rather just let it work. You got to know every single step. And we're talking quantum physics and all these other things that, you're never going to get a satisfactory explanation, but you just try it, because we weren't born with the need to understand how the law of attraction works. We were born to create. And if someone hadn't started telling us we couldn't, we wouldn't think that we couldn't. So it's really an unlearning thing that we're all going through right now.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. It's about learning to then let go of like the old teachings that you got, or like the limiting beliefs that you have. So in that way, you're able to then go with the process and maximize the like results and the teachings, and that way then you're open to learn new things, really. And what was? Oh no, go on. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's amazing what beliefs people will cling to, even though they make them miserable.
Yeah.
But that's indicative of wiring. That's how insidious wiring is, because when we're wired a certain way, we literally see it as truth. Like no one can tell us any different. And we see it every time there's a political, election or whatever. That's when we run into, how can you not see this, right? They can't. And you think that they're just being a jerk or whatever. Their wiring will not allow them to see it. They will have to change. And vice versa. They're thinking the same thing about you. How can they not see? You're not wired that way. So that's how, and so we make each other wrong and all of these other things. It just becomes a mess because our wiring has been so messed with, and it continues to be messed with from every angle every single day. And so we must learn to get into the practice of taking control of how we're processing the information that's coming in.
Totally, I definitely agree with that. What would you say was the biggest takeaway from being a part of the movie How Thoughts Become Things?
Well, it was a great resurgence to the conversation, for one thing, because The Secret was 13 years ago, right? And it does get perceived as a different kind of movie, more energy, woo-woo, whatever, because they had a genie in it and all these other things. It just had a different feel. And this one definitely is timed right where I am in my professional conversation around this. When I'm talking about this, it is about the rewiring. It is about the brain stuff more than the energy stuff, although I will always talk about that. But I just need people to know that it is not required that you buy into any of the energy stuff if you don't want to. We can still, rewiring your brain is a logical process. And these are the steps. They just happen to be the same steps to get the law of attraction to work.
That's actually so very true about how everything ties into one another one way or another. So regardless of you may not believe in it, you may be doing let's say you might have a morning routine that involves something that's linked to it in some way. So regardless of if you believe in it or not, you may not even know that you're practicing it. So I highly advise that you listeners go and watch the movie How Thoughts Become Things, so then you guys get a gist of how things work in life, and you guys can then take control of your own life. And why would you say the movie is needed now more than ever?
Well, I mean, look, right now people's thoughts are going everywhere. There's fear and there's worry, there's anxiety, there's so much uncertainty, and it's obvious. We're in this pandemic thing, and it's no one's experienced this before, really. And so our thoughts are very, very fragmented. And so it is and if our thoughts remain fragmented, we are going to continue to fragment our experience of reality. That's just how it works. And again, you can look at it from energetically, woo-woo, you're attracting all this stuff, but also if you're frenetic and chaotic in your thinking, your actions will be that way. Your interactions with you're not going to get anything done, right? So it's practical too, to get focused and get clear on how your thoughts are impacting your reality, whether you want to go the quantum physics kind of woo-woo way, or whether it's just the practical way. And so now is a great time for a movie like this to come out, just to put people's attention back on their thought process and the role that it's playing. Because, I guarantee you people aren't thinking about it enough. They're not thinking about the fact that their perpetual thoughts are creating their experience. They're in reaction mode. They're dealing with what's coming. But because they're unconscious about it, they're just perpetuating the same emotions of panic and worry and, oh my God, there's a problem, instead of any focus on a solution. And what that feels like, at least for themselves. You don't even have to think about the whole world. Just think about you. Who do you want to be on the other side of this? How do you want to be living your life? It could be completely different than what it is now. You're free to dream. You're free to create whatever. Because the wiring will change to keep up with your persistent thought process. So if you are committed to becoming more empowered or more outgoing or whatever it is you want to do, you just got to start that process, get those wires going, feed that, and let the old ones die on the vine.
And I totally agree with that, because there were several key points we touched on that, about how thoughts and how they're affecting our everyday life in ways that some of us don't even seem to comprehend. Because personally, after watching the movie, it gave me that time to then self-reflect on just how everything that I think and do plays a huge role in my life. Because I used to I suffer from panic attacks and things like that. So the thoughts come into a huge play there, and then as a result of then as a result of becoming more aware of the thoughts that I have, and then able to then control my breathing and so many other things like that. So the movie has definitely been an amazing help, and I really do want to thank you for being a part of it.
Well, it was my pleasure. It was cool to be involved with a project that so many of the other Secret folks were. And it was kind of I didn't see anybody in the making of the film except for Doug, but the director, but it's still it's a reunion of sorts. Right. And to see how old I got in 10 years or 13 years, but but and also how the message has evolved. Mine has definitely evolved. And it was because of The Secret that it was forced to evolve, because before The Secret, everybody who I was reaching was already on board. They were on my email list or on the email list of all the people who were in the movie. So everybody just loved it. Then when it got out into the population, then that's when we got different reactions from people. And then my job changed from just teaching these principles to putting out a lot of, fires and dispelling a lot of myths of oversimplification. It became a little bit more, it was just different.
That's really, really interesting. And on the note, I'd like to ask, how did you feel when the movie was first released to the public?
Which one?
How Thoughts Become Things.
Well, it was great because especially during this time, there were all these plans for premieres and all these, live things. And so they really had to pivot and make this happen. But, it's great that it's out there, and it's great, what I'm seeing, the reaction that I'm seeing is good. And, I think if it can help, maybe ground some of the ideas that didn't seem so grounded to some people in The Secret, or if they've never even seen The Secret, I think it's just a good wake up call for any time. And so to be a part of it is, it's great. It's one of those things that never would have been on my list to be in even after The Secret. It was like, okay, I did that. I wouldn't have thought there'd be another one. And I've done 3 or 4 of these things, but this one has a different feel, and it's very focused, on what, I think most of us in there certainly agree is the most important aspect of this, because all of it every idea, every listen, every theory you read, every technique, it all is going to go through this thought filter. What do I think about this? Do I believe it? Am I going to take action on it? What are my thoughts on this? Can I do this? So it's all about the thought. So if you getting a handle on that first is absolutely key. So it's a great thing to be a part of.
And that is so very true. It's about then, because then if you're simply like aware of like everything that goes on in your life, you're then able to act from a different state other than simply having to constantly react to things that happen. You then control things that go on. And I think that that's like one thing that I think it was, I'm not sure who said it in the movie, but they said something about like how you need to be, instead of being a thermometer, you need to be a thermostat. That way you're then able to control your surroundings. And I really, really did like that. It really did stick with me. What would you say was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome whilst making the movie, whilst being a part of the movie?
I honestly, there was not one obstacle for me in this movie. I mean, it couldn't have been easier. The film crew came to Las Vegas, which is where I live. I go down there and I answer the questions, and it's not, and like I said, it was the time was right. The cast was right. Everything just was a yes. So I did not feel any sort of obstacle because, I mean, honestly, my job was easy. I go in and I talk about what I talk about and then I leave. Doug, I'm sure, would have a lot of different answers as the maker of the film.
That's actually absolutely amazing, really, how then you were then able to be a part of the movie and then inspire others without having to face any like real obstacles. And what would you say was that pivotal point for you when you realized what you really wanted to do with your life?
When I've always been a person who, when I have a challenge in my life, and I didn't set out to do this, it just is the way I process stuff, it turns out. When I'm taking on a personal challenge or learning something, I just tend to share what I'm going through. It helps me be accountable. My first foray into any of this was in the fitness world. Long before I was teaching law of attraction, I'd gone from doing, no physical exercise to getting very interested in physique transformation and doing interviews. And that's where I kind of honed my interviewing skills. A lot of the skills that I brought into, my law of attraction stuff, I cultivated there. I'm trying to remember now why I'm answering that part of the question. What was the first part of the question? Help me get back on track.
Okay, so the first part was, what was that pivotal point along your journey?
The pivotal point.
Yeah.
When I started to see results, it was just immediate that I had to share. Like it was just like, I'm going to put something together because I've been looking for this for so long. And I know there's a lot of people like me who want to believe this stuff, but are skeptical for whatever reason and who need what I got. And in my case, it was like, just to give me a little bit more science, so that was really my focus on it when I first started, was the science of it and the physics of it and the power of our thoughts and resistance and all of those things. Cause that's what gave me the huge aha moment, was when I realized that it wasn't what I was saying that was making the difference. It was who I was being.
That is absolutely amazing. I totally agree with that 100%, because it's good to say things, but if you're doing the complete opposite, does it really matter? It's really contradictory. So it's about doing and saying the same things. That way then you're able to attract things into your life that you actually want, instead of because many people tend to focus on, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, but it's about focusing on the things that you do want. Then you are then able to attract more of what you want, more of you can able to do the things that you want with people you like, and then that is when you simply are able to become a master of your reality as a whole.
That's right. And the sooner you start, the better. You guys are young, and this is the perfect time and your family has cultivated this from the beginning. It's so clear you guys are doing great things. Not everybody has the benefit of that kind of fertilization of ideas at your age, but if they could, if this kind of thinking about thinking could be taught, to kids, because it makes sense to you, right? It's not like, what? It makes sense, but we're just not taught it. So then as an adult, then it seems more weird. Like the most logical thing seems outrageous because we're just so oddly wired. So getting started early in this, getting clear on who you want to be, knowing that, by the way, you can change that anytime you want to. You're not locked in. I've been lots of things, been lots of people, because I got this one experience of life. And if I get the whim, I want to see what it feels like to be this. Why would I not do it? Because I may not get another chance. And so it's like, and I may upset some people if I go do this, but I want to do this and I'll get new people.
That is absolutely amazing. And thank you so much. If you could let's say you could go back in time and you could go back to when the movie was being filmed, let's say you wanted to add one thing to the movie. What one thing would that be and why?
That is a good and fair question, but I was I went in there very prepared in terms of my own contribution. I think I said what I wanted to say. And as I think about it, I don't know that there was any vast thing missing. It's one of those things that the ideas you just need to repeated exposure and integrate them with how does this apply to me? Does this apply to me? How can I make this apply to me? Because a lot of times we'll watch stuff like this and go, this doesn't apply to me. And it absolutely does. And that categoric, denial that it applies is part of the problem. So to consider every idea in the film and go, what is my relationship to this idea? Do I buy it? Am I living it? Can I benefit from it? What if it's true? I mean, if you watch the film in that way and because there's a lot of things said, there's a lot of people saying a lot of different things. You could break it down paragraph by paragraph and go, how does this apply to me? So it's, I don't know that putting more in is necessary. It's more applying what's there.
That is actually great. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I totally agree with that. It's about then being able to go over, watch the movie a couple more times, then you're able to pick up on any missed information or maybe even missed, any parts where you may have looked at it another way. You're then able to switch that perspective and maybe even gain even more value. And could you, when you first found out about the law of attraction and other things like that, how did it shift your perspective of life?
Well, I mean, I took personal responsibility for everything that was happening to me. That was huge, because before everything was happening to me, but when I was able to see how my predominant underlying subconscious thoughts were absolutely, my experience of reality was absolutely a reflection of that. It was actually very empowering because now, okay, great. Now all I got to do is work on those subconscious thoughts. And I've done enough reading to know that I can do that a million different ways. So now I just need to get intentional about it because it's clearly calling the shots.
Yeah, that's absolutely so amazing. And I really did like how you said about how before things were happening to you, and then as you awaken to the fact of law of attraction, how thoughts tie into life and things like that, then you're able to have your effect on your environment instead of being affected by it and allowing them to control you, because you then have ownership over everything that you do, get involved in, say, speak, and other things like that. You are then able to not only take control of your surroundings, but then you're then able to bring things into reality.
The most important thing you're learning to do, is to have control over your reaction to any situation. To be able to respond and interpret it in an empowering way, no matter what it looks like from the outside. Because when you can do that and become unflappable and just interpret everything as for you, all the feedback is for you. Of this perceived failure, this thing that triggered you, it's all for you. It is all supporting you. If you can look at it that way, man, oh man, does that shift things. Because then you turn off that whole I'm reacting negatively machine in your brain. And those neural pathways wither and die on the vine, and you become much more in the flow. And again, you're able to, because it's all about making the choice in the moment. How am I interpreting this moment? All of this input, that's the mastery, is how do I feel about this moment? What am I allowing? No matter what it looks like. Am I going to allow myself to go dark where everybody else is going? Or can I find a different way to be, even if it looks insane to everyone else? Because I'm not concerned really about everybody else's well-being if they are committed to feeling the way they are. If they're committed to it, it's not up to me to change them. But I am responsible for my experience, and I don't want to spend any moment in angst or misery or anxiety or fear that I don't have to. And most of the time you don't have to. It's just a response that's automatic. And so my work on myself has been making that response time, the time that I'm in it, shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter.
And that then again, that links back to like how you were talking about like running on, how many of us are like running on autopilot, and that's due to like the habits that have been installed in us from like young ages, and for some of us even before we were born. And I think that's really, really important. Just then looking at how you spoke about like how we need to focus on rewiring ourselves, because if we like want to see if there's something on the outside, we need to go within first, and then we are able to then work inside out and then attract even more levels of success, really.
We have to work from the inside out because we're seeing everything through this lens which we have crafted from the inside. If we don't see it from the inside out, but most people are doing it outside in, and that's what the response mode is all about. So it's just that shift of energetic power, basically, of just how are you using your mind? It's right here in your head. You can do it. It is a series of decisions, and it will take a series because the first few decisions, your ego is going to go, you can't do this, or whatever. It's going to feel uncomfortable at first, but with the right support or the right information or just the right, that level. And the biggest motivator for you to do any of this work should be this vision of you and your life that you're going to create. You should create a vision of yourself that is so inspiring that you can answer the question, why must I do this? It's not an option. I have to do this. When you can get to that point, then you can stop looking at, being stopped is not an option. So yeah, the things will happen that would normally stop you, but you've gotten to where you must do this. So now you're going to take that feedback, and instead of meaning, oh, the universe doesn't want me to have it, it's like, what do I have to learn from this? Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to do it different. And that's how things are made anyway. That's how inventions are done, thousands and thousands of iterations of things. But that's just not how inventors know this, that you don't fail after even 20 things that you don't. You just keep going because you got a vision. And that's how, if we would be like that about this and no angst around how long it's taking or it has to look a certain way, it would come so much faster and so much smoother. And the process would be such less of an emotional roller coaster. But we've just been trained to look for results and look for evidence that it's working. If it's not, oh, this secret thing's a scam or this whatever. But that's just wiring, because we have to have it now, ignoring the fact that it took our entire lives for us to wire ourselves into this moment, into this being. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time, but you make it worth your while with your vision.
Definitely. It's about then acknowledging the fact that it's taking you so long to get to the stage that you're at today, so you can't expect you to then be rewired overnight. The same way that it's taking you X amount of years to get to here, it's going to take you those same amount of years, or maybe even like slightly shorter to get to.
It'll take way shorter because you're being intentional. Because you're not on autopilot, because you're noticing when you're going down the dark side or whatever, and you stop. Hopefully you stop, you get support, you get a coach, you do whatever you got to do. I mean, look, this kind of change, it's going to require some level of investment on yourself, whether it's time, energy, money, or a combination. It's going to take the time and investment. So you make that investment worthwhile by creating a vision for yourself that is so compelling that it's worth whatever you have to do to get there. If you can't get to that vision, you just got to you got to let go of you got to identify these limiting beliefs or get some help with it, because we're all capable of thinking huge and accomplishing huge things. It is only our thoughts that decide whether or not we're going to take action on a thing, make that call, write that book. It's a thought. And that's all controlled by wiring, which we can change with a decision to do it. So it's really super simple. It's just not easy because of how strong our current wiring is.
I totally agree with that. And that keyword there, decision, about then simply making that conscious decision that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, and this is how I'm going to do it. Because then when
And
you
why I want to do it. Why? It's like they really got to have that why. It's like, why is this? Why must I do this? Is the question.
Because then by reflecting on why you want to do it, you then find that sole purpose, that sole mission as to like what you're going to achieve, or like what you're going to feel as a result of then accomplishing this as a whole.
Yes. And it should feel amazing. And you shouldn't feel bad at all about feeling so freaking amazing, because what you did had an incredible impact, and a lot of other people feel amazing because of it. And you get to feel amazing.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. Could you share some advice to your younger self?
Oh man, stop being such a sad sack. Look, my whole thing was I was a very like depressed, if there had been goth back then, I might have been it. I don't know. I just was like, I was just kind of saddish, and if I had known now, what I know then, there would have been a lot about being okay with being who you were. Cause I did get shut down in my teen years. I was very self-expressed, but then I'd get in trouble for it. Right. I'd get in trouble because it's school. And I learned that being who I was wrong. Right. And that showed up in everywhere, relationships and the whole thing. So I just struggled. And if I could just say, no, really be who you are, you'll attract the right people and all of this other stuff, getting in there early with cultivating more positive thoughts, certainly about money and success and things like that. But my mom was a teacher, and she was a single mom, and she was struggling. And so all I saw was struggle, and she had to work all the time and go to school and do all of these things, and she didn't have personal development background. She wouldn't have known how to put all this in me anyway, but we do know now. We know a lot more now as a culture about what to do. And I get asked all the time, how do I teach my kids this? You live it. That's the only way. You can sit them down in front of The Secret and hope they get inspired. But if you don't live congruent, they're going to learn from you, not a movie, ultimately. I mean, unless there's an extraordinary situation. And there are kids who are born with just a different brain. They're old souls and they bypass the whole thing. So I don't want to make a blanket statement. But, generally speaking, we're going to be the product of what we see. And kids just don't buy into the nonsense. A parent cannot tell them that this is what did it, and you can have anything and then not have that themselves. There's no congruence, and it's not going to work. So basically for kids, it's just like, if you want to make an impact, you embrace this. You go be the best you can be. You show them the value of creative self-expression and being who you are really here to be. And let them see how fun it is. Let them see how inspiring it is. Let them see how much joy it brings you, as opposed to, I got to go do this crappy job that I hate to put food on the table for you.
Yeah.
Because and that message gets imprinted, and then they do the same thing, or at least are inclined to, unless something comes in and shakes them up. But we've been really blessed in the past 20 years or so since The Secret, and other things too. What the Bleep was another great, that shook things up and said, hey, everybody, guess what? This is a thing. You've got way more control than you think. And that started a lot of conversations, that are continuing with movies like How Thoughts Become Things, and I'm sure future things that will happen, because there's a very definite inherent interest in humanity to understand ourselves. But what I know, the most important thing that I know as a person who is passionate about creating, is that we are here to create. And that's what I want to help people do through whether it's law of attraction messages, like these movies that I do, or teaching or coaching, or through the other things that I do creatively, just, that are entertainment based or silly, that have nothing at all to do with the law of attraction, and would probably make some people who know me only from The Secret go, what is he doing? I'm expressing myself and I'm having a ton of fun, and I'm not making any apologies for it. And it's a great thing. And I wouldn't have it any other way at this point.
That's absolutely amazing. I think that's one trait that people need to adopt in their life. Just being able to say, like, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and whatever you think, I really like. Whatever you think that's true to you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true for me. And that is just something that many people, unfortunately, they don't have that skills trait, and that's due to like the era that we're growing up in, because like everyone's so focused on like social media, what do they think of me and other things like that. And not only does that have a huge impact on them as a person, but it also damages them mentally, because then they always have that voice in the background thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what they think, hopefully they like it and things like that. And it's about simply chucking that all out the window and saying, this is me, this is who I am, and if you don't like me for it, I really do not mind.
Yeah, and getting that is the most empowering thing ever. And it is challenging. I mean, because I do most of my interfacing with the world is on social media with the Bob Doyle Show and anything I do. And so of course, I'm wanting to make sure I'm making an impact. So you get caught in that. How many likes is this? Has anybody shared this? I mean, that's that whole validation thing. It seems to be inherent, that we need that. We need that from other people somehow to validate our own existence. But when you can get conscious of, wow, that is a weird program I'm running, I absolutely don't need that, then it becomes more freeing. Would it be fun to know that everything I do, I got a gazillion everything and I was really landing with anybody? Absolutely. But should that stop me from expressing it because they don't? No. Has it tempted me to stop? Oh, yeah. Because the ego comes into play. I mean, I'm a human like everybody else. But again, it goes right back to that very first thing I said, the ability to get into observation mode about that. Like when I catch myself being in the behavior, then I can make a choice. I can either say, you know what, I'm going to be in it right now. I just feel like being mad. Fine, I made that choice and I know what the consequences are energetically if I choose that. Or I say, I got to let this go and use any of a number of techniques to let it go if I'm having a challenge with it. But it's just about becoming conscious in the moment.
That is totally true. And if you then switch into the observation mode, then you are then able to take ownership and simply become more aware as to how your actions play a huge role in your life, because then you're not reacting to situations. You're actually taking that step back, thinking like, how should I do? What are the consequences as a result of doing this? And you're simply playing it out. Then instead of reacting, you're actually acting however you choose to do so, instead of being instead of hitting that tennis ball back and forwards, really.
Which is what most people will do, even if they may go into knowing that there's going to be this potential exchange going, okay, no, I'm going to be conscious. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get engaged. But then that person says that one thing and then all of that is out the window. It's like, oh no, and we justify it, but that does not negate the negative impact it is having on your wiring and your energy, and you've just made it harder on yourself, giving into that sweet, sweet adrenaline or whatever that hormone that comes out when you're right or you're saying that thing. It's a bittersweet, yucky pill because it feels good to feel heard and, oh, I'm right, but it doesn't feel good. It's like a poison. There's not a real satisfaction in that. So being able to just not even go there is a skill that's way better.
Yeah, I think it's just being aware that yes, it might feel good in the time, but that is a short-term gratification. It's about then finding something that is then able to fuel you and make you feel good in the long run, as opposed to having something that will last for a short amount of time that actually isn't that beneficial to you as a whole, really.
Right. And hopefully your definition, your new vision of who you want to be is a person who doesn't react like that. Just build that into your vision. And how would that person respond in that same exact situation where right now you see no other choice but to throw things? What would that other more evolved or more clarified, more grounded, more present version of you do in the situation right now, having infinite choices, really?
That is actually so very true. And many listeners, and just people as a whole, they say that successful people don't have any bad times, and we all know that that's not true. So could you share with us how you could maintain focus despite any hardships?
Yeah, it's not always been easy. I've had a lot of ups and downs, and I am very transparent about it. I want people to know that we're all human. And I just happen to have some information about this stuff that can maybe help you navigate this stuff. But it doesn't mean I'm immune to it, because I still have 50 something years of wiring too. And I've just been way more conscious about changing it, in a fraction of that. So I'm going to get caught in my stuff and all of that. But again, it's just, but now I can't do it without knowing I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I can't just go down a negative path and not have the voice go, you know what you're doing right now, right? It's like, it no longer is, I can't get away with it. I'm because I've monitored it so much and I know so strongly what the impact is that I am making those choices, all the time. So it's just, everything gets easier when you have a vision. Everything gets easier when you know why you're doing anything, and so the down times are just when you understand that it's just part of the journey, and it's not, we call it down. We call it bad. We call it challenging. That's how we're interpreting it because that's our wiring. It is simply what it is. And it may cause us to take different action, which we are not comfortable with because we don't take it all the time. So it feels bad and uncomfortable. It's just because of wiring. So there's no inherent good, bad to any of it. It's just how we interpret it. And really getting it is the key to really all the power.
That is so very true. I totally agree with that. It's about then simply acknowledging, like, yes, this may seem bad in the now, but it's teaching me the lessons that I could then use in the future if anything like this should arise again.
Yes, that is one way that can happen. I mean, there's so many things there's so many gifts in every moment of resistance. Whenever we have that, it's a gift because we go, oh, look, that's an area that I've got some stuff. I'm stuck here. I've got an old program running. It's a gift. Now I know what to go after, right? Or to actively rewire. Because if I hadn't identified it by this situation that I don't particularly like, maybe I wouldn't be reminded that I have to work, and then I can work on it and it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And I really did like how you said about like vision and other things like that, because like when you have a vision, you then have a purpose and you have things you need to get done every day. And it simply makes every day of your life even more productive because then you have something that you want to work towards. So there's no time for you to just louse around and complain and things like that, because you have to get something done and you need to get done.
We seem to be built with an inherent satisfaction of getting something done. Like when we complete something, I mean, a lot of us have challenges with completing, but when we complete things, that just is our nature because we like to learn, we like to grow. It is the nature of the universe to expand. And that includes our brains and our minds and our learning and all the things that are possible. So what Dennis Waitley said about never being satisfied, it's almost like you're never going to be anyway. Because as soon as you reach a goal, your wiring is there and now it wants to grow because that is the nature of the universe. All things in the universe, it's infinitely expanding. And we are, of course, a part of it. So we're no exception. Our desires will grow, who we're being, everything will evolve if we'll allow it to, if we open the door to that evolution.
Yes, it's about allowing it. I totally agree with that. It's about allowing it and having that open mindset that despite all the like achievements and accolades you may have in your life, it's about then having that open mindset to be open to like forever growing despite how much success and all the things that you've achieved.
Oh yeah.
And having that open mindset, it simply opens the doors for even more success as a whole.
Yeah, you're not going to feel fulfilled for very long if you stay just in the same place. I mean, there's got to be it doesn't mean you have to constantly be making a lot more money or your career or your house gets bigger, but there's got to be something about you that is evolving. It can be a very slow, gradual thing, like you could learn to knit, something like that. Just anything that you're growing and expanding, you're honoring your very nature of growth and expansion, because when you don't, it feels terrible. And that's when people get despondent and lose hope and all of that. They're not evolving anymore. They're not doing what they're here to do at all. And so it doesn't feel like life. And that's, it's the root of a lot of problems.
That is, yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. And I hope that you listeners have taken notes so you guys do not miss out on any of these nuggets that we have shared with you today. And if you guys have seem to have forgotten or didn't catch what we're saying, please do feel free to rewind it. And Bob, could you share with the listeners where they can find you if they'd like to find out about any upcoming things you may have?
Sure. So I'm all over the place. I'm super easy to find. I've been on the internet since a long time. But along the lines of this conversation, they can go to meetbobdoyle.com. bob.doyle.com/rewire. And I've got it's a webinar about this whole conversation about the importance of rewiring and how to start doing it. So I think that would be very helpful, because it's all about your thoughts. It's about, getting more control over how you're responding to your thoughts. So that's one thing. I'm easy to find on Facebook just by searching Bob Doyle, and the Bob Doyle Show is easy to find too. I mean, really just type Bob Doyle into Google and there's no end, seemingly no end to Bob Doyle related content. And that's, the law of attraction stuff and everything I'm up to. The meetbobdoyle.com has basically a menu of everything I'm up to. But /rewire is the most pertinent probably to this particular conversation.
And I really do, thank you so much for sharing, and I really do urge that you listeners go and check out the Meet Bob Doyle /Rewire, as I believe that is something that can be highly beneficial to you, especially at a time like now, because then it gives you that time to then put in the self-work. So then when we are out of this pandemic, you guys bounce back even better than ever before. And
now is the time to do that for sure.
Definitely. Are there any last words of inspiration that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Look, I just really want people to know, to listen enough. If there's one takeaway in this whole thing, learn to be the observer. Learn to stop and observe, and you can make a new choice. That's the beginning of all of it, right? But before that, it is, who do I want to be? And again, it doesn't have to even be a version of you. It probably will be. But what version, what are the good things, what are the things about you that you would love to see expanded? And what are the things that maybe some of them you like to go away a little bit, right? Build that vision for yourself and allow yourself to see, visualize that version of you going through your everyday life and see how differently they respond to things. And then you can literally model that imagined vision of you, this behavior. You can let your vision guide you and mimic exactly what you envision, and the world will just have to respond.
Yeah, and I really do urge that you listeners do give that a try, and it sounds absolutely amazing. I'd like to thank you, Bob, for coming on the Influencer Show today. I really did enjoy it.
It was my pleasure. It was great meeting you and talking to you.
Thank you. And also I'd like to thank you listeners for listening, and if you guys did enjoy it, please do feel free to leave a like and comment what was your favorite part, and hope you guys have a great day. That's it from me. Bye.